Hola muchachos, ¿qué tal? Buenos días. Aquí tienen el horario para hoy, jueves el 13 de febrero. All right, today's lesson is a continuation of where we left off last class, our lesson on descriptive adjectives. And as we talked about last class, we have already discussed how adjectives are words that describe people, places, and things, as you can see on page 118 of the textbook. That's not new. We know what adjectives are in English. In Spanish, we know that descriptive adjectives typically are used with the verb ser to point out characteristics such as nationality, size, color, shape, personality, and appearance. This is prior knowledge. And also what might be prior knowledge is the fact that in Spanish, we typically have different forms of adjectives. Adjectives, like nouns, agree in two ways. They agree in gender, masculine or feminine, and number, singular or plural. So essentially, there are four different types of endings of traditional adjectives, as most adjectives can end in either O or A, masculine or feminine. They can also end in OS or AS if they're masculine plural or singular plural. So that's what this second bullet point is referring to, that adjectives describe nouns, right? Adjectives describe a person, place, or thing. And since all nouns in Spanish, or most all nouns in Spanish, have either a masculine form or a feminine form, and adjectives agree with those nouns in both gender and number. So just as nouns can be either masculine, feminine, singular, plural, so too can adjectives have a masculine, feminine, singular, and plural form. And essentially there are four endings: ending in O, ending in OS, ending in A, and ending in AS. Some adjectives are considered gender neutral, meaning that they don't have, or they have the same form rather for masculine and feminine, ending in E, regardless of gender, and then making them plural, you would add an S to the singular ending, as you can see here at the bottom of page 118. 119 gives you some common adjectives that are used in the Spanish-speaking world to describe both personality and appearance. Colors, some of them having a masculine, feminine ending, some of them ending in a consonant or gender neutral, like verde. And then nationalities as well. Again, a mixture of traditional, ending in O, ending in A, or ending in a consonant, such as español, or inglés, or francés. And the nationalities, to make them feminine, those that end in a consonant, you would just add the letter A, as indicated there for japonesa and española. All right, 120 talks about the position of adjectives, how typically descriptive adjectives in English go before the noun. However, in Spanish, it's the opposite. The adjective would go after the noun, as you can see in these two examples. Adjectives of quantity go before the noun, as you can see in those two examples there. Muchos libros and dos turistas. Some adjectives can change their meaning based upon their position. The adjectives bueno and malo, good and bad, can go either before or after the noun. Doesn't necessarily change their meaning, though. It does change their spelling, however. Bueno would change to buen when it goes before the noun. Malo would change to mal when it goes before the noun. Grande does change its meaning according to where it is positioned. Grande means big or large, as it would in the second example. However, when put second example, when it's after the noun, that it modifies. However, when grande is put before the noun, such as in this example, it means, and in the spelling changes from grande to gran, the meaning changes to great. So we did the inténtalo last class. I'll provide the answers really quickly. We will do one activity out of the textbook, Activity 1, where you guys are comparing, using these adjectives of comparison to describe these two individuals, and then your homework for next class, which is El Poema en Diamante. You can watch this video here if you want to skip, but essentially this video will give you a description of what to do for that homework. So going back to the Inténtalo, which I think we started last class, if I'm not mistaken, but we didn't finish. So that'll be our warm-up for today. Taking a look at these four adjectives, provide the appropriate forms of each adjective according to the noun that they modify. Simpático is masculine singular. I'm not going to go back in the notes. You can see on page 118, based on the ending, the O ending, it's a masculine singular adjective, which would agree with the masculine singular noun that it modifies. La profesora Martinez es simpática. Simpática, feminine singular. La profesora, feminine singular. Rosa y Teresa son simpáticas. Simpáticas, feminine plural. Rosa y Teresa, feminine plural. Nosotros somos simpáticos. Simpáticos, masculine plural. Nosotros, ending in OS, masculine plural. Even though it might be mixed gender, we still identify it as masculine plural. All right, go ahead and do alemán, guapo, and azul. Pay close attention to azul and alemán as they end in consonants. You can go back to page 119 to see how those would change according to the gender of the noun. Going over the correct answers together. Ans es alemán. Mis primas son alemanas. Marcus y yo somos alemanes. ES. Mi tía es alemana. La calculadora es azul. El papel es azul. Las maletas son azules. Los libros son azules. Mi esposo es guapo. Su esposo es guapo. Mis sobrinas son guapas. Los padres de ellas son guapos. Marta es guapa. All right, now activity 1 on page 121. You guys are going to use these adjectives from the list, A and B. You can see what the meanings of these are on page 119. So just choose the adjective that best describes Jorge and or Marcos. Going through this together, guapo is open to interpretation. Guapo meaning attractive or handsome in this case. Open to interpretation for either. Moreno, not so much. Moreno is dark-haired, so that would only be applicable to Marcos. Alto is tall. Comparatively, we would say Marcos es alto. Gordo is chubby. I think comparatively, Jorge es gordo. Joven is young. From my perspective, these guys look pretty young, so I would say Jorge y Marcos son jóvenes. Grande is large. I don't think either one of them would be considered large, so I'm not going to use that one. Blanco is white. Both of them are wearing white shirts. Both of them have white skin color. Jorge y Marcos son blancos. Delgado is skinny, or for you heritage speakers, you would also say flaco. Marcos es flaco, or Marcos es delgado. Pequeño is small. I don't think either one of them are small. Verde is green. Neither one of them have anything on that's green. Feo is ugly. Again, that's kind of like guapo. Open to interpretation. Don't find them either to be particularly ugly. Not going to use that one. Viejo is old. Again, from my perspective, I don't find either one of these gentlemen to be old. Rubio is blonde-haired. Jorge es rubio. Negro. Los zapatos de Marcos son negros. Marcos has black-colored shoes on. And then finally, bajo is short, comparatively speaking. Jorge es bajo. Now, you guys are going to use those same groups of adjectives for your homework. There they are on page 119. And your homework is called El Poema en Diamantes. This is very easy to do. There are 5 parts to this poem. See if I can zoom in here so you can see it better. And again, you can watch the video here. And here's a really good example. The first part, again, there are 5 total. The first part is to write your name at the very top. Soy Elena. Or me llamo Elena. Mi nombre es Elena. So obviously replace Elena with your name. And then the rest of the parts of this poem, 2 adjectives that describe what you're like in general. 3 adjectives that describe what you tend to be like, sometimes, a veces. 2 adjectives that don't describe you at all. And then finally the phrase, yo soy yo. And when you write this poem out, it's going to be in the shape of a diamond, more or less of a diamond. That's why we call it El Poema en Diamante. And then in the 4 corners that are going to be available, you guys are going to draw pictures that reflect the adjectives that you guys chose to describe yourself. Now, these adjectives can be personality-based adjectives, appearance-based adjectives, whatever adjectives you want to use. It's up to you. So again, begin with your name, then continue with this sentence verbatim, meaning word for word, but you're going to replace these 2 adjectives, reservada y ordenada, with any 2 adjectives that you think best describe you. For example, en general, soy reservada y ordenada. Make sure your adjectives agree in gender, masculine or feminine, and number. Obviously singular, because the poem's about you. That's really the whole intent of this writing, is for you to demonstrate your familiarity with these grammar concepts. How adjectives need to agree in both gender and number. Third part is 3 adjectives that describe you sometimes. A veces soy, for example, atrevida, graciosa, o impaciente. 3 adjectives that describe what you tend to be like, not always, but for the most part. And then finally, the last description is 2 adjectives that don't describe you at all. No soy ni deportista ni artística. I'm not athletic or artistic. So 2 adjectives that don't describe you at all. And then finish off with yo soy yo. You'll take a picture and submit this in Canvas. That is your only homework due for next class, El Poema en Diamante.